And we'll go ahead and get going. So this is Chem 1A. I'm glad you're Zooming here. Last semester, 3 people Zoomed every day each semester, or each all semester long. All 3 passed. 44 didn't Zoom every day, and 6 of them passed. So you're off to a good start. All right. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I save for lab. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I save for lecture. So let me talk to you about Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, first of all. So when I say I reserve Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for lecture, the dealio is that you're supposed to watch the lectures in the modules first, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And when you Zoom on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you ask questions. Well, how do you do this homework problem? You ask questions about things you've tried in the book. You ask questions about things you don't understand. That's what I take first. If you don't have any questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my textbook and start pulling questions out of the back of the book and show you how I would answer them. And in showing you how I answer them, I'm showing you what you should write on an exam if you want full credit. And if you don't do that, you won't get full credit. Okay, so that's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we talk about lab. So today we're going to spend most of our time talking about lab after we start going through some of the ins and outs of the course. Fair enough? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what is on my desktop. Okay, so you can see I just opened up Zoom so I could launch this session. I'm going to close this, and you can see that these are the classes that I have in my dashboard. So I've already logged into Canvas here, and you can see I have Chem 1A virtual 252, Chem 1A virtual 253, orientation letters, and keep teaching. So I'm going to link to Chem 1A virtual 252. If you originally signed up a year ago for the afternoon class that goes basically from 1:15 to 2:30, except for Tuesdays and Thursdays where it goes from 1:15 to 4:30, you would be in this section. This section looks just like the 252 section, only they have different numbers at the top. So you'll notice when you look at this that you can see that we have the most recent announcements posted. I believe the most recent 5 announcements are going to be posted, and the older ones won't be posted. So the most recent posted. And here you can see that we have module 0. And I should also explain to you that when you open your dashboard and you link to this class, this should be what pops up, the modules. So the modules go in order. Module 0 is the intro module. Then there's module 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The numbers of the modules are the same as the chapter in the book that we're using. So that would explain why at the bottom here, we go from module 10 to module 23. It's not that we lost a bunch of modules. They're named for the chapter. And then there's a miscellaneous module I have at the end. All right, now most of these modules are not available for you to look at. I populate them as you need them. So what you need right now is module 0 and module 1. And I haven't populated everything in module 1 yet because you don't need it yet. I will be populating some of these things later today. Okay, so let's go to module 0. I have these overview documents, which basically gives you a list of things you're supposed to accomplish or look at in that particular module. This is redundant because the list of things that you need to look at in the module, are listed right there in the module. So you should be looking at the welcome document, the orientation letter, the syllabus. And these will remain available for you to look at all semester long in this module. And then you should watch that Introduction to Online Learning video, because you learn a little bit about taking online courses. You've probably done this already last semester. If you're like me, you didn't like it. I didn't like it, but here we are. It's a pandemic. Then we have this proctorial module. I've been having a little bit of trouble with this particular module, but let me tell you what it's supposed to do. Proctorial is what we're going to use for taking exams. It's also going to be used for taking quizzes. Exams are a much bigger deal than quizzes. Every chapter has a quiz. Every 3 chapters, approximately, we have an exam. During the quizzes, I will be locking down the screen. So that means you cannot open new tabs. It's going to be locked on full screen. If you try to open a new screen or import something, you're going to be thrown out of the test. So basically, you look at the test and you take it, and that's it. You can have a calculator to use during I should say not test, quiz. You'll be taking the quiz, you can use a calculator, and when you're done, you're done. However, during the exam, it's going to be the same way, but my exams, you need to submit work. So you might ask yourself, how am I going to submit work if Tony has it locked down and I can't import files of my work? And the solution is simple. You'll take the lockdown test, you'll do all your work on paper. When you're done, you will end the exam without submitting anything. You'll then open up a second exam, which is not locked down. It'll have the same questions. And what I would do before you open the second exam is I would take all of my work, take photos of them, send them to my computer, upload them all into a file, and preferably open them each up and save them as a PDF. So you have a PDF of problem 1, a PDF of problem 2, PDF of problem 3 for the whole exam. So that's going to be 11 PDFs. And then when you open up the second exam, it will have the same questions and it'll have a place for you to upload. So this way you can open up a new tab, shove stuff in there, and you're good to go. Now, naturally, to upload your answers is going to take a lot less time than to actually take the test. So the second test, which is not secure, you'll only have 15 minutes to get it done. So that's why you want to finish your exam, take images of your work, and upload it to your computer as quickly as possible. Then take the second exam and upload your files to that exam for my grading. So do you understand why I have both of these practice quizzes? One is for, hey, it's all locked down, and the other one is for it's not locked down. So the one that doesn't say part 1, that's locked down. Part 2, it should be open. I've been having a little bit of trouble with this one. So you might see a part 3, which is if part 2 isn't working for you. Are you with me? I will leave these up here for you to practice with because you want to get good at part 2, uploading your answers. You're going to have a limited amount of time so that, in my opinion, you won't be able to look up answers and do work outside of the test. Okay. And then there's the student introduction, which hopefully you've already submitted to. You're just supposed to put down your name while you're taking the class, study habits, and if you've ever taken an online course before. So an easy 10 points. Let's go to module 1 in just a moment. Do you have any questions so far about module 0? No questions?
So I was going to ask, so when we're doing our first test, right, are we doing our work on paper?
Absolutely.
Taking pictures of the paper? Okay, cool.
Well,
cool.
Not during the test. You're not taking pictures during the test.
Take it after.
You will do all of your work on paper,
mm-hmm.
and you will have to submit images of that work.
Right.
Now, to make the workflow easier for you and also to manage the settings, I'm going to have very tight settings when you're doing the work, mm-hmm. so that you can't open up a new internet site and look for an answer, mm-hmm. and so forth and so on. And then for the submission of the problems, it's pretty open, but you have a very limited amount of time to submit your answers, so you can't look stuff up.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
any sense?
Yeah.
So you're going to be working on paper.
Cool.
Hopefully your
Fantastic.
handwriting is neat enough for me to read, because if it's not, what can I do? Just grade it and say, I do the best I can. Now, you do want to do really well on the exams, and the best way to do that is to learn how I expect work to be shown on a problem. And that's why you want to go to those Zoom sessions, is because that's where I'll be showing you that. You will see that in lecture also, but it's probably better if you get it live and you see how I think through the problems, how I read it and I go, oh, this must mean this must mean this, and then work it out. It helps a lot. Okay, I don't see your names here. What was your name? You just asked a question?
My name is Jacoby.
Jacoby, okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if I'm recording this.
Yeah, it says it's recording.
Okay, great. Well, I'll post this one later. I won't always be posting these things. The other thing I want to tell you is that if we take a look at these Confer Zoom session links, what I did at 10 o'clock, I'm doing with you right now at 1:15. So if I post each one of these, it's just like the same thing again and again and again. I might do that for this first session, but thereafter I probably won't. So if you happen to miss the 10 o'clock and you can, or let's say that you normally go at the 1:15, but tomorrow you're going to be busy at 1:15 and 10's free, show up at the 10. So these are, regardless of what section you're in, you can attend any one on that day. And if you find a particular subject matter really confusing and you want to attend more than one Zoom session, you can do so. Okay? Fridays, you'll notice I only have 2 Zoom sessions because I refuse to work in the evening on Friday. And in fact, you probably will not hear anything from me over the weekend because it's the weekend. As it is, I'm probably going to be working on this class from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day, 4 days a week, plus a good deal of time on Friday. And that's doing the Zoom sessions, probably managing the website, and not even getting any grading done. So the grading is probably going to be done on the weekends and you won't hear from me. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here and go back to module 1. The next file that we look at here in module 1 is the overview. So it has the list of things to do here. And here, let's look at lectures and homework. So I have the basic concepts of chemistry, video lectures, 3C media, and I have the basic concepts of chemistry, video lectures, YouTube. Let's just go to one of those quickly. I'm going to go to the 3C media. The 3C media is the one that has captions that are approved by the state. And so these are the official lecture videos. And you'll notice that we can play them, but there's also, if you scroll, a playlist at the bottom. So there are 3 videos for chapter 1, and this happens to be the 3rd one I just linked to. And if you see this window here, you can make this window larger by clicking this little box here next to 3C Media. Okay, we're going to continue from where we left off. So we're talking about energy units. The units that we use are joules and calories. Oh, what happened? 1 calorie is 4.184
And it
joules.
should go to
That's
full
not exact,
screen.
but you should remember it. 1,000 calories is equal to 1 calorie, where
That's not. I don't know
1,000
why.
lowercase calories is 1 uppercase calorie. The uppercase calorie represents.
I'm not sure why that isn't working. But at any rate, I also put these on YouTube. And YouTube is not state approved for captions. But the fact that I have these with state approved captions means that I can put the YouTube up there too. Now, this is what happens when I try to open the YouTube. So I go to this new site. And what you'll see here are the same 3 videos. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you use whichever you like better. Next, we have the chapter 1 as a PowerPoint presentation. I did not produce this. It was given to me by the textbook authors or publishers. And I just put it up there because some people like this type of information this way. I hate it. I think it's really bad, but you're welcome to it. Okay, so I'm just trying to give you as many resources as is possible. I definitely recommend you watch the lectures. The PowerPoints, give it a try. They don't really help you. Don't do them. Okay. Now, you might be wondering if they're PowerPoint presentations, how can I look at them if I don't have Office? And the answer is very simple. You get a free version of Office 365. To find out how to get it, you just go to College of the Redwoods, and in the search window, you put Office 365. And it'll take you to a site where it will tell you how to get that Office 365 and put it on your computer. And I believe you are able to put it on like 5 different devices. And once you get that Office 365, you want to download it to your computer so you don't have to work through Office 365 online. You can just have it there on your desktop or laptop. Okay. So here we have the module 1 homework. You'll notice it says 0 points because it's not worth anything, but it's worth everything. What I mean by that is if you can't do the homework, you will fail the exam. And when I say if you can't do the homework, you'll fail the exam, what I'm talking about is you need to be able to do something like this. It's actually going to be a little tougher on the exam without referring to any documents. You will have a periodic table on every exam because I'm not going to make you memorize the periodic table. However, you're not going to have the information on how to do this stuff. So you want to be able to do this without looking at any information. That's your goal. And you'll notice that at the very end, I added one more thing. Try as many problems from the end of the chapter until you can write out the answers without looking for help in the textbook. That's your ultimate goal. Okay, I think I even have a due date here, but that's irrelevant. I also posted the solutions for module 1. I need a newer computer. This thing's slow. Okay, so do you see this module 1 homework solutions? Let's open that up. So I tried to make it so that the answers were in red. And this is the kind of stuff I would expect to see on an exam. Now, I'll be honest with you. Chapter 1 is the easy chapter. Chapter 2 is where it gets interesting because there's math. Okay, so I have not printed all of the homework solutions because I have not made all of the homework solutions. I think I stopped doing this after like chapter 4 because it was just way too much work last semester. Let's see now. Let's take a look next at labs. Before we go to labs, do you have any questions about lectures and homework? I have a question for you. Oh, go ahead, Jacoby.
Yeah, I've got one more. So when I'm looking at this table, right, we only have to, so the first 2 rows on the table are the same. And then the last row on the very bottom from 6 to 7, that's a different thing. So we have to show up to either one of the first 2 meetings and then that 3rd meeting, or?
If you look at Monday, all 3 meetings are the same.
Oh, they're all the same. Okay. Cool.
And if you look at Friday, both of those meetings are the same.
Okay, got it.
And so the deal is on a daily basis, I'm going to be doing this 3 times, except for Friday, I'll be doing it twice. So by 6 o'clock, I'm probably going to be a little frazzled, and I'll probably be saying not or forgetting things and so forth and so on. Who knows? Probably the best one to come to is the 1:15 session, because I'll have practiced for the morning one.
Mhm.
I'll still be somewhat fresh and I won't be burned out, and I'll probably do a better job.
All right. Cool.
So you guys are actually probably at the better one. Okay. So that being said, when is homework due? Never. Never. Should you do it? Yeah. And in fact, when I talked about the 3 people who Zoomed all semester long last semester, they also spent a great deal of time doing the homework and making sure they knew how to do it. Okay, lab notebook. Let's talk about that. So today, Tuesday and Thursdays are normal lab days in class, and we meet for 3 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're not going to be doing that this semester. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting you up to do the lab so that you can perform it and hopefully learn a little bit. So let me set you up for all of the labs to begin with. So the lab notebook, the photo submission, this is a non-graded assignment, but I just want to make sure that you have a proper lab notebook for Thursday. So I'm going to show you examples of proper lab notebooks. I went to the dollar store this morning and I bought a whole bunch of lab notebooks. So here's one. This is okay. Let me think. It's bound. The pages, you can see, are bound together. I think this is a horrible lab notebook myself because there are no lines in it. And when I write in something that doesn't have lines in it, I go at all sorts of different angles. So this is appropriate, not one I would use. Also from the dollar store, composition book. So this costs $1. Inside, you'll see that it has lined pages. Okay, I like this kind. What would be better, and what they didn't have at the dollar store, is something called quad rule. Quad rule means that it's sectioned into basically graph paper. And that's even better because sometimes you'll be drawing graphs in your lab notebook. And so it'd be nice to have this with a quad rule. You can find them at Staples. Is that what we have in town? Probably Target, Walmart. And by the way, I'm not associated with any of these places. I'm just trying to give you places to go. Now, if you do use a composition notebook like this and you have to draw a graph in there, it's good to have graph paper, because then you can draw your graph paper here and glue it into your lab notebook. Actually glue it. Okay, so does everyone understand about the lab notebook and what you're supposed to have, what type it's supposed to be? Let me show you another one. Fancy schmancy. This is when I was a student at Humboldt State. This one, the pages are numbered already. Costs about $20. $1, $20. I'm going for the $1 one. For the lab notebook submission, you're supposed to take a picture of it, submit it, and I tell you, hey, yeah, that'll work. Now, before I move on, I want to show you things that are not appropriate and not allowed. Spirally bound, not allowed. That's not a proper lab notebook. Loose leaf paper that you want to put into a 3-ring binder or some other sort of binder, that's not allowed. That's pretty much it. It needs to be bound. Okay, let's look at the lab notebook requirements. And I'm not going to open that up. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about it with this lab notebook. So here, when I open it up, I would call this page number 1. And in this upper corner, I've written the number 1. At the top, I've written table of contents. And you can see the table of contents is empty because I don't know what the first thing is. But when you do finally put stuff in here, you want to put the name of the lab and what page it belongs on. Some instructors actually want to have you put a date in here also, but I don't do that. Now, for your lab notebook, as soon as you get it, you want to put in the table of contents in the number 1 here. And when I flip this page, this is page 2 that I'm pointing at and tapping. And this is page 3 that I'm tapping. So a lot of books, you'll notice, they don't put every page number in. They put in every other page number. So here I have a 3, and here I don't have a 2, because if this is page 1 and this is page 3, this is obviously page 2. Are you with me? You should go through and number your lab notebook. Every other page, beginning with, I know table of contents usually has Roman numerals on it. We're not going to monkey with that. Just put a 1 there. You with me? We're not in Italy. Okay. Are any of you Italian? I am. Sartori is an Italian name. All right. So you want to get a lab notebook. You want to write table of contents, and you want to number the pages. I'll now open this lab notebook requirements document. And you'll see that what I've already discussed with you is in here. So this tells you how you're supposed to, what the function is of a lab notebook, what types are okay and what types are not okay, and what type of entries you want. So here, I also tell students to write their name on the front, College of the Redwoods, chemistry. And the reason you do all of that is because normally this is a face-to-face class. And if you leave your lab notebook on the bus and it says College of the Redwoods, it'll make it to College of the Redwoods. And then they'll say, oh, chemistry, it'll make it to me. And then I'll say, oh, Jacoby, and I'll get it to you. You with me? Whereas nobody, I know some people know you in town, but not everyone knows you well enough to get that lab notebook back to you, but they can get it back to CR. Okay. So this tells you about the first page. This also tells you that you write in permanent ink. So this is like writing a report or a paper that you turn into an English teacher. It's never done in pencil, it's done in ink. But the difference is that we are okay with mistakes in the lab notebook. We are not okay with erasure. We are not okay with whiteout. We are not okay with ripped out pages. We are not okay with scribbling and blacking out what you don't like. If you make a mistake in this class, in your lab notebook, let me give you an example here. You see this page right here? All of it was a waste. So what did I do for this page? A single line through the whole page. So you might ask, why don't you just rip the page out, Tony? And the answer is, well, it turned out that later, all that information was okay. And if I had erased it or scribbled it all out or put white out over all of it, I would have lost all the information. This is how you do a lab notebook. So here's another page where it turned out to be a total waste. But had I needed to go back and get that information, I could get it. Now, in this lab notebook, you'll notice, it's hard to notice, but I'm writing in pencil. And here's just to show you all the red marks I'm getting in my lab notebook. I'm writing in pencil. The reason I'm writing in pencil is because when I took chemistry, pens had not been invented yet. You feel like you're getting a little taller because I'm pulling your leg. But it's a common feature that you record everything in pen. I started using pen a little later. Okay, so any questions about how you write in your lab notebook with what type of writing utensil? Pen okay, pencil not okay. Capiche? And if you make mistakes, you put a line through it. Did you see that little clever thing I did there? I wrote mistake, put a line through it. Isn't that cute? Okay, so you do the same thing. And if you're one of those people who says, oh my God, it's just got to be perfect, you need to understand that mistakes crossed out is perfect. Mistakes erased, white out, or ripped out are horrible. And that should make you very nervous. For the experiment, I want these sections: a title. Our first lab is going to be measurements, so the title is measurements. The introduction, where you describe what it is you're going to be doing in that lab. For the description, I like to use bullet points because writing out a narrative takes too much time for me, so I just bullet the important things. Safety, you always address safety issues. If there are no safety issues, then you write down, there are no safety issues with this lab. Our measurements lab, there are no safety issues. The procedure. The next section with the procedure, also sometimes called the experimental section. You write down what you did in the lab. Now, sometimes you have an idea of what you're going to do, but you deviate from that. So if you deviate from that and you write the procedure in your lab notebook, you want to cross out what you didn't do and write down next to it what you did do, which can be a bit of a hassle. So for this section, I would recommend that you actually write out your procedure, if you have one, on a piece of paper. And then as you actually do the lab, write it into your lab notebook right then and there. It only takes a moment to write a little bullet. I added 2 milliliters of water to the test tube. And you're doing it as you go along, and you don't have to come back later and try to remember what you did. But you also have that template of the procedure written out to follow. Are you with me here? So being prepared makes your life so much easier. Okay, and the ultimate goal of the procedure is if you were to repeat this experiment 10 years down the line, you'd be able to do it because you know what you did. You have it written down. The data. You want to include all of the data you're collecting, measurements or whatnot, and make sure it's labeled correctly. You don't want to see something like 7 centimeters and not know what it refers to. You might have width of the index card, 7 centimeters, something like that. And if you're getting measurements that are the same over and over and over again, you might have a table where at the top it says length, and here it says index card, note card, book, can, and then you put all the links in a table. You with me? Tables are really convenient for collating a lot of information into something that's very easy to see, kind of like the table of the conference links. Okay, or the Confer Zoom links. But you're not always able to use a table, so sometimes you just make a list of edge of the note card, mass of the ruler, and you write the number next to it. Are you with me there? Okay, and this is something that you can collect at the same time. Now you might be thinking, so if I'm keeping up my procedure at the same time I'm writing down this data, how do I know how much room to leave? And the answer is leave enough room. If you end up with a amount of space that's unused between your procedure and your data, you can just put a big circle around that and say, purposefully left empty. That's fine. Okay, calculations. Many of these labs, we're going to be doing calculations. The density lab, we're going to be calculating density. Now, if we're going to be calculating density 15 times, you want to show one sample because they're all calculated the same way. And you might say, well, if I'm getting 15 densities, where do I put all the answers? And the answer would be, you'd put them in a results table. But you don't need to show me 15 calculations when they're all the same type, just different numbers. You show me one example and put them in the answers in the result table. Capiche? So the way I think of it is, the data is the information you collect in the lab. The results are what you did with that data. Okay? And lastly, the discussion. If I read a discussion that says this lab went well, I was happy with the results, I'm just going to give you a 0 for the whole lab because that is the most horrible discussion in the world. Usually for the discussion, you start back with the introduction. Oh, in this lab, we're going to get the density of lead. You should probably start the discussion with, we found the density of lead to be. Are you with me? And then you want to discuss more. Well, I looked up the density of lead online and I found out that we were close, but not quite so close as I had hoped. Here's the reasons why my number differ from what's on the internet. Does that make any sense? So you discuss, you say your results, you kind of discuss whether or not you're kind of happy with it, and then you give reasons for why it may be different than what you find online or the accepted value. And naturally, when you give reasons for why it's different than the accepted value, that naturally lends itself to what you might change the next time. So you don't need to write down, so here's what I changed the next time, because it's pretty obvious when you say, well, the problem was I measured the displacement using a cup instead of a graduated cylinder, and the markings were too small or too big on the cup. Clearly, you're not going to use the cup again. Does that make sense? So I'm not looking for, oh, and here's how I change it. I'm looking for, here's what I think what went wrong. And that lends to, naturally, you'd fix that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So that's what you're going to have to write for every lab. And I suggest that you use bullet points to make it go more quickly, because we'll be doing over 20 labs. And this can be time consuming unless you not make it time consuming. For every lab, you're going to turn in a copy of all of this stuff. And for labs where there are safety issues, you're also going to submit images of you wearing your safety goggles doing the lab. Here's an example of what are okay safety goggles. I believe in the syllabus, I put links to these types of things. I put a link to goggles where there are holes in the sides. They're not okay. And I also put a link to like glasses that you put over glasses. They're not okay. They need to fit your face. You can buy these at Ace Hardware, True Value Hardware, Home Depot, Pearson's, for Busco's, lots of different places for about $5. And I'm not going to have you wear them for every lab, only for those labs where there are safety issues that involve your eyes. Does that make sense? Okay. So also, in addition to the lab notebook, you're going to submit answers to a list of questions that I'm going to ask about the lab. Now, the answers to that list of question, I would put in my lab notebook also after the discussion, just because it's nice and neat and it's all in one place. You will upload files of the lab write-up, introduction to discussion, any photos that I ask for, and the answers to the questions that I present to you for each lab. And these are going to be due, I'll give you the due date when I post the lab. Normally, you'll be given anywhere from 3 to 5 days to accomplish that. Fair enough? Okay. The first few labs you're going to find are pretty quick, pretty easy. For the first 2 labs, you need to buy those things that I suggested a long time ago. The balance. Let me see if I can show you my balance. I bought this last semester, at the beginning of the semester. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch my share so that you'll see my tabletop. So that's what this thing is. It's my camera for showing you my tabletop. So here's my balance. It's a nice little compact unit, and it's what I call Tony proof. And what I mean by Tony proof is that when you put the lid back on, it doesn't matter which way you put it on, it works either way, which means it's Tony proof. Because if there's someone who can figure out how to put something together wrong, it's me. You turn it on. You can change the unit, but we should have it in the gram unit. So that's what this is in. This is so that you can put things in here that might roll around. And you can see that this weighs 16.86 grams. And if I hit this tear button, it now weighs 0. So that means whatever I put in here, we get the mass of it. And it also measures to the 100th of a gram, which is what we will settle for. We like 100th of a gram. But if I had you buy the scale that measures to 100th of a gram, instead of $15, it costs $150. And that's just way too much. So I settled for this guy. This is used for measuring herbs for cooking. That's what it's used for. It measures up to 300 grams, which is a little bit more than half of a pound. So you need to have one of these. You need to have a graduated cylinder. Let's see, where's my graduated cylinder? There's a link somewhere, but you probably know what a graduated cylinder is based on having taken a previous chemistry class. You should also have a ruler. I like clear ones because if you want to measure how wide this pen is, you put the ruler over the top and you can see the numbers better than trying to look past the pen and seeing the numbers. Does that make any sense? Clear rulers are really nice for that. And you want it to be metric. Most of them will be metric and English, but you want to make sure that we do things in metric because in science, everything is metric, not in English. Turns out there's only one country that works with English measurements anymore. Do you know which country that is? Us. Even English don't use English measurements. They use metric. Do you know who the last president was who tried to get the country to convert to metric? Because you're not going to believe me when I tell you. It was President Reagan. Yeah, you were going to say Clinton or Obama, right? Nope. Okay. So the Gipper tried to do it. So any questions about the lab notebook and what you're going to have to turn in for the lab? So there's the lab write-up, photos that I ask for, and answers to the questions. Capiche? Okay. We're moving along really well here. We're normally going to go to 2:30, but I don't think we're going to have to do that today. For lab safety, you should watch all of these videos. They're done by the American Chemical Society, which has the same 3-letter abbreviation as the American Cancer Society. But these are decent videos. And when you have a little bit of downtime, like you just put the pasta in and it's going to take 5 minutes to cook, you watch Safety Mindset. You with me? Okay, and then you want to take this lab safety quiz, which is due by the end of tomorrow. Let's go to the lab safety quiz so that you understand what I'm asking for, okay? So here's the quiz, and I'm going to go to preview, which will allow me to show you the one question on the quiz. So basically, you have to go to that link there, safety quiz. And I'm going to go to that link. And here's the safety quiz. So you're supposed to answer each one of these questions. So I'm going to try number 1. What elected group laws, blah, blah, blah. It's got an all of the above, which is the answer I usually pick when it has an all of the above. And now I'm going to go to question 2. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm going to pick C. Oh, guess what? C's not the answer. And then I'll go to question 3 and I'll pick C again, because you know if you don't know the answer, it's always C, right? Oh, C wasn't the answer. 4. C. C is the, so you can see if you get the correct answer, it's going to give you a check mark. If you get the wrong answer, it's going to give you an X. And if I go back and fix number 3, I finally got it. Look at what color number 3 is. It's yellow, right? So I can go back to 2 and I can do the same thing and figure out what the answer is. All of the above. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this. The instructions say answer questions 1 through 31. There's 120 questions here. I only want the first 31. If you do beyond that, you're wasting your time. Now, let's say I've gotten all the way to number 31 and I go to score quiz. Do you see the table there? The introduction has 7 questions. I tried 4. I got 3 correct, which is a 42.8%. But you'll notice I've got 2 yellow boxes in there, right? Can't have that. To pass this quiz, you need to go back, do all 31. All the boxes have to be green. And when you show me this, I've got to be able to see that you tried 7, you got 7 correct, 100% for the introduction and for section 1. Capiche? So it's not enough to get it correct with the yellow box. You need to get every one of them correct with a green box. Once you pass that quiz, you get it 10 points. Fair enough? Okay. And please don't go beyond question 31 because you're just, I mean, unless you're one of those people who can't live life without finishing the whole quiz, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But stop at 31. Take a screenshot of this and submit it. Okay? All right. So any questions about the lab safety quiz? Okay. Let's go to the materials agreement and liability waiver. These 2 documents I'll be printing or uploading in just a moment after this class ends. These are actually going to be quizzes. And because with the quiz, I can have you do a file upload. For the distance learning laboratory course enrollment and lab kit, blah, 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 material supply assumption and risk of release form, this is basically a liability waiver where it says that you're not going to sue the school if you do something stupid and get hurt. We are going to be working with dangerous chemicals. I will tell you how to use them safely. But if you do something stupid, you release the school from liability. Okay, you need to do that to be able to be sent the lab kit that we want to send you. The lab kits document is basically an acceptance of responsibility for the lab kit and a promise to send back the equipment and unused chemicals. And in doing so, you won't be charged $40 and that's it. So there's a number of things that we want to send you because to make you buy them would be a waste of your money. You'd buy it and you'd have a whole bunch of leftovers. There are some things I'm going to make you buy, like vinegar and baking soda, which you can use in other things. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're trying to make this as cheap as possible or as inexpensive as possible and supply you with materials. Now, both of these are going to be quizzes where basically the question is going to be, I accept responsibility and by submitting my signature and my address and my student number, that's my acceptance of responsibility. Those quizzes aren't going to be worth any points. They're just acceptance of responsibility. Plus, I get your address for where I can send the kit. So you don't need to come to school to pick it up. We're going to send it to you. What materials in the kit are you going to need soon? or actually the question should be, when will you need those materials? And the answer is not this coming Thursday, but the one afterwards. So if I can get your addresses by Thursday, we could probably get them into the mail Thursday, and that gives us a week to get it to you. Does that make any sense? Okay, so those will be populated later today. I'm probably going to do that work between this class and the 6 o'clock class. Measurements lab, I will probably be posting that tomorrow. So you can see there's the lab notebook and the lab assignment. I'm going to collate that into just one thing that says measurements lab. It will describe some background to what we're doing. It'll also give you the assignment for the questions you should answer in addition to the lab. And I'm going to be honest with you, with the measurements lab, we're going to do a few simple things. We're going to measure lengths. The idea here is to be able to practice measuring and using the correct number of significant figures when you measure. So there's a little bit of stuff in there in the lab notebook and lab assignment where it tells you how to measure things and how to measure things properly. Okay. The next lab we're going to do is the density lab. I'm going to collate that into one link. And we're going to be getting the density of pennies and the density of dimes. You probably, or hopefully have already noticed that I told you you need to get 50 pennies that were minted after 1983, and you need 50 dimes. Now, for the dimes, I did not say minted after 1983 because it doesn't matter. I would just say that you probably want to avoid dimes minted before 62 because they tend to be silver. And you're not going to find many of those because, you know, coin collectors pick them out. They know that those dimes are worth $1. So you're probably not going to find silver dimes or silver quarters or silver half dollars. It's really rare. And the idea is we're going to get the density of these things. And if you think about dimes and what color they are, and if you think about pennies and what color they are, one of them is made out of mostly copper, one's made out of mostly zinc. And naturally, you would probably think that the dimes are made out of zinc because they're silver, and the pennies are made out of copper. That's a hypothesis. So we're going to get the density of these guys, and then we'll look at the density of those metals and see, well, were we right? Does that make any sense? Okay, so that'll be the lab that we'll be doing next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we're going to be doing a mass spectrometry lab. We'll probably do an Avogadro's lab. I don't have that in here, so I'm going to have to add that. And you're going to need the materials from the lab kit for that. So I see that I don't have that in there. We weren't able to do that last semester, but we're going to make you do it this semester. It's kind of a fun lab. All right, so that's a good introduction to the class. I'm going to pause here for a moment and ask if you have any questions at all. I'll take the silence as I don't have any questions. Okay. With that being said, I think we'll just end this one early. We'll give you that first day, let's get out of here early vibe. How's that sound? Good? Okay, so what are you going to do today? Or tomorrow?
Safety videos.
Yeah, those lab safety videos, and then
Get a lab notebook.
yeah, and then also looking at module 1 homework as well.
Yeah. And try not to look at the answers before you do the problems. There's no point in that because the exams are 60% of the test. And if you fail every exam, you're going to have a hard time passing this class. Really hard time. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Now, normally when I end a session, I tell everybody to unmute themselves and say toodles. So unmute yourself and say toodles. Or goodbye.
Doodles. Doodles.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow, I hope.
Thank you.